This time at Sambo's Stop Mo's, we are making a little log splitter. So when I was younger, I had this little kit where it had I-beams and different things where you could build things. And this is left over. I don't play with the kit anymore, obviously. And it's a little I-beam, and I thought, man, that would be great for making a log splitter. So to connect all the pieces, you have these little pieces, connectors, nubs, whatever you want to call them, that I wanted to cut off. And then there's some rounded edges that would be nice to cut off. It was also a little long. You could see it was the length of a tractor, and so I was just trimming that down. You could cut right through it. It's plastic. If you're looking to do a project similar to this, I can't really tell you where you can find one. There you can buy styrene like it. So for the wedge, I am taking just a piece of die cast I had and filing it down. And then for the tires, I used old Ertl ones that were kind of scratched up, but I wanted to make them nice. So first things first is where the scratches were. I actually heated up my old file and pressed them on, and that gives them kind of a look like they're flat. The next thing that I wanted to do was take some steel wool and rub on it. That's kind of lightly sanding it, and it takes the shine away for the most part. So now, while that, we're moving on, and we have two little pipes. This is the hydraulic cylinder. This is what pushes, and any log splitter pushes the wood to the wedge and splits it. So I have two sizes that fit nice, and then we're going to paint the outside black. The inside can stay the color it is, and then we have a little plate that goes on the end. This log splitter, the plate is going to push the wood into the wedge. Some you push the wedge into the wood, but this is how I'm doing it. So for the axle on the bottom, I'm using another piece of pipe. I'm just going to file a little groove into the beam so that when I glue it in, it stays and sticks better and holds on. So I just painted that black and glued it on. So now for the wheels, we're just going to put some glue around and set these in. They kind of had to sit careful when you dry them, and if you do glue wheels on and you do make them look flat, make sure you put the flat part on the bottom. So that's that. I just painted the top of the wedge, and I'll eventually do a lot more painting later. Before I did any of this, I just gave the whole thing a coat of red. It was kind of orangey before, which looking back I kind of like. I don't know. So just to give the wheels a little more detail, I painted the bolts black, which realistically maybe they wouldn't, I don't know. It makes them pop, and it looked nice, and the axle tube, just that went on fine. So to hold on the hydraulic cylinder, I have this little ring that I drilled a hole into and glued in. This will hold it above the surface a little more, like some are. And before I glue that on there, I glued on this plate. I just made it out of brass, cut little section out of the middle so it can kind of go around the edge of the splitter, and then I'll glue the smaller piece of pipe, the hydraulic cylinder, onto it. I put a little wood block there to hold it even as it dries. So now I'm going back to my brass sheet, and I'm cutting out a couple pieces to use as a hitch. I like to put custom hitches on my implements, so I have two pieces here. I was just kind of holding them down, and then we're going to drill a hole through them both. The idea is having them both together, they'll line up, and I think it did. So here I'm just using my Dremel drill press. It's a nice little tool. I'd recommend getting one if you don't do a ton of drilling, but you want to do fairly accurate things, and you have a Dremel that's handy. So I glued one to the bottom. That was simple. Then I made a cut in to the I-beam there, and then I bent the other piece and put some glue on and stuck it in there. It was a little tricky getting it even, but you can see how it turned out there. We actually had a log splitter like this. I'm basing this off of, so I think that hitch was like that. The other unique thing is, so I'm using some wire here for hydraulic lines. And a lot of log splitters have a motor, hydraulic fluid tank, and then levers. Our old one, you'd put hydraulics right into the tractor and then use the levers on the tractor actually. So that's what I decided to do here. It would be a little simple. This is probably the most customized scratch built piece that I've ever made, so I wanted to keep it fairly simple. I didn't have a motor either, so there were certain things that would have just kind of went complicated. So using an alligator clip, I painted those black. It would have been nice if I had some, like, you can get like rubber cable kind of things. I couldn't find mine, so I just used wire. I painted the hitch black as well. there's multiple other details. I put a little plug in the back of the hydraulic cylinder that was made out of a toothpick, actually, and I painted that black, and I'm fairly happy with how that turned out. Then I painted this plate black. Now, like I said, the way this splitter is going to be, it will push the wood into the wedge, whereas the wedge pushes it into the plate, but that's beside the point. So I'm using some black paint just to paint up the wedge the whole way around, and then here just a dot of glue should attach to those hydraulic cables, hydraulic lines, therefore. So this one goes out of the back, the other one goes out of the front. That's fairly realistic, I think, and I kind of like the way that looks. So I made them extra long, and for a stand, I just use a block of wood. So the way that they're extra long, it'll kind of go in through the axle of the tractor. It won't look 100% realistic, but it will work because each tractor is different. So for when I painted it, there got like a little rubbly part in the back. I don't know how to explain it. So what I decided to do was, I like when this happens on certain pieces. I spread some Elmer's glue, and then I'm going to put shaved a little chalk pastel on, some brown and some red, and mixed it to make it look like rust, and spread that out. I was trying something new with the Elmer's glue. I think it turned out okay. Usually I'll just set some on there and dull coat it, but I didn't want to dull coat this time. So this is how it's looking. This is about its finished state. To do a little weathering, I took some silver on an old paintbrush that doesn't really mean much and is just kind of old and yucky. I pressed that on to the plate because wood being repeatedly smashed on there will chip off the paint, obviously, and make that worn down. The other thing I wanted to do then was take some of the same paint and paint it on the base of the I-beam where the wood would sit. As that rubs back and forth with the wood and the plate, it would scratch off the paint, and keep it silver because if you're commonly using it, it would scrape off the rust, so it wouldn't have time to rust. That's why I used the silver. I had this old paintbrush that came in like a pack of 50 for a couple bucks. It's not good for doing any other details except something like this, where it worked fairly good because you wanted kind of a sloppy job anyways. And sometimes after I'm done, I don't even clean them out, I just throw it out. I wanted to put some rust here, and I do eventually, but I just put a little silver paint there first. I put some wood chips I just shaved off of a little piece of wood I had laying around someplace on my workbench, sprinkled that on, and then I used some brown dust just to kind of dirty it up, dusty it up, rust it up, kind of whatever you might want to think it is. I sprinkled that over most of it, and it kind of gave it a dulled down look. For the wheels and tires, I took some black pastel, and it grummed up the wheels, and it also dulled down the tires, which I was kind of happy with. So right here you're going to see the final product. That's my scratch-built wood splitter based off of just something a farm would have put together. It'll be on one of my future displays. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for stopping by.